Madison Carter gazed out from the towering windows of the Carter estate in downtown Chicago, her reflection merging with the glittering skyline. The opulent penthouse felt almost suffocating at times, despite its grandeur. She was the only daughter of William Carter, a man whose influence over the city's real estate market was unmatched, and Victoria Carter, a socialite whose elegance and poise were matched only by her sharp intellect. Every corner of their home spoke of wealth, crystal chandeliers, marble floors, and priceless artwork that Madison had grown up learning to admire. Yet, despite the comfort, Madison often felt a hollow ache in her chest, a longing for something real, something not dictated by societal expectations or family obligations. The source of her happiness, though, was a secret she kept carefully hidden: Ryan Hayes. Unlike the men her father would expect her to associate with, Ryan lived modestly in a small apartment a few blocks away. He didn't own a luxury car, nor did he dine at the finest restaurants, but the way his eyes lit up whenever he saw Madison made all the difference. Ryan was struggling. He worked multiple jobs to make ends meet, often sacrificing his own comfort to ensure his mother, Evelyn, had what she needed. But despite his financial limitations, Ryan loved Madison with a fervor that no wealth could buy. To him, Madison wasn't a Carter heiress. She was simply the woman who had captured his heart. Their relationship was clandestine, nurtured in the quiet hours of the evening. Madison would sneak out of her sprawling home to meet Ryan at small cafes or walk with him along the less crowded streets of Chicago. "Madison," Ryan whispered one evening as they sat on a park bench beneath the golden glow of a street lamp, "you know I don't have much, but I swear I'll give you the world in my own way." His voice trembled slightly, a mix of vulnerability and determination. Madison smiled, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. "Ryan, you already give me the world. All I've ever wanted was someone who truly cares about me, and that's you." Even in those fleeting moments of secrecy, Madison felt an undeniable pull toward Ryan. There was something raw and real about him that made her forget the carefully orchestrated world she was born into. Ryan's mother, Evelyn Hayes, had long recognized the sincerity in their love. She often teased Ryan, saying, "Madison is a good girl, Ryan. She's the kind of girl a man like you deserves, even if the world doesn't see it that way." Ryan would chuckle and squeeze his mother's hand, grateful for her support. Evelyn had raised him alone after his father left, and she understood the importance of finding love and loyalty. Seeing her son happy gave her more joy than anything else in her life. Despite his modest background, Ryan had always carried himself with quiet dignity. He could easily have let his struggles embitter him, but he chose instead to work tirelessly and remain steadfast in his love for Madison. He often joked that someday he would earn enough to buy her something extravagant, but he knew that the trinkets and luxuries meant nothing compared to the bond they shared. "I don't need a fancy car or a mansion," he once said, leaning against the cafe counter while Madison sipped her coffee. "I just need you. That's all that matters." Madison's heart had skipped a beat at that declaration, her hands curling around his in silent agreement. Back at the Carter estate, life was a carefully choreographed dance of appearances and obligations. William Carter, ever the strategic thinker, rarely tolerated unpredictability. His expectations for Madison were clear: marry someone who matched the Carter name, someone influential and capable of advancing the family's legacy. Victoria, on the other hand, had a softer approach, but was equally concerned with propriety. She adored her daughter, but insisted that a Carter daughter's life must reflect the family stature. Neither parent could fathom why Madison would be drawn to a man like Ryan Hayes, whose life was defined by limitations that would never make him a suitable match in their eyes. Yet Madison found herself drawn to Ryan's authenticity. She loved how he laughed without pretense, how he listened intently when she spoke, and how he never let her wealth make him feel inferior. One afternoon, while walking through a quiet alley lined with graffiti art, Ryan paused and took her hands in his. "Madison, I know our worlds are different," he said, eyes searching hers. "But I don't care about your father's money or your name. I care about you. Nothing else matters." Madison felt a warmth she couldn't describe, a combination of safety and exhilaration. "Ryan, I feel the same. Being with you is the only thing that feels right in this world." Evelyn Hayes, ever observant, had noticed the way Madison's face would light up whenever Ryan was around. She didn't care about money or status. She cared about the love her son had found. "He's a good girl, Ryan," she told him one evening as they shared a modest dinner in their small kitchen. "She makes you happy, and that's all that matters. Don't let anyone make you feel less for wanting her." Ryan smiled, grateful for his mother's unwavering trust. He knew that if he could only keep Madison safe from the pressures of her world, nothing else would matter. But secrecy came at a cost. Madison often found herself glancing over her shoulder, aware that one misstep could expose their relationship to her parents. She cherished Ryan, but she also feared the consequences of their love being discovered. "We have to be careful," she whispered one evening as they sat on a bench near the river. "My father, he would never accept this. Never." Ryan tightened his hold on her hand. "Then we'll just have to be smarter than him," he replied firmly. "No matter what, Madison, I'm not letting go of you." The promise lingered between them, both comforting and tinged with the tension of forbidden love. In these quiet, stolen moments, Madison and Ryan created a world that belonged only to them. It was a sanctuary where titles, wealth, and expectations faded into irrelevance. Their love was simple but profound, built on honesty and a mutual understanding that neither had ever experienced before. Ryan, despite his struggles, made her feel cherished, while Madison, despite her privilege, offered him a rare sense of equality and acceptance. Yet, in the back of Madison's mind, she knew this fragile happiness could not last forever. The Carter name carried weight, and the world she had been born into would not permit a love that defied its rigid boundaries. Still, as she leaned against Ryan that evening, listening to the distant hum of the city, she clung to the hope that their hearts could somehow endure the trials ahead. "I love you, Ryan," she whispered, resting her head on his shoulder. He kissed her forehead, his voice low and steady. "And I love you, Madison, always." For that brief moment, the world outside their hidden corner of Chicago ceased to exist. In the glow of streetlights and the whisper of the wind, Madison and Ryan allowed themselves to imagine a future together, one where love, not wealth or social standing, dictated their fate. But as they parted that night, the weight of reality pressed back in. The Carter legacy loomed, and the path ahead promised obstacles neither of them could yet fully comprehend. "I love you, Ryan," she whispered, resting her head on his shoulder. He kissed her forehead, his voice low and steady. "And I love you, Madison, always." For that brief moment, the world outside their hidden corner of Chicago ceased to exist. In the glow of streetlights and the whisper of the wind, Madison and Ryan allowed themselves to imagine a future together, one where love, not wealth or social standing, dictated their fate. But as they parted that night, the weight of reality pressed back in. The Carter legacy loomed, and the path ahead promised obstacles neither of them could yet fully comprehend. The morning sun filtered through the grand windows of the Carter estate, casting a golden glow over the polished marble floors. Madison walked quietly through the halls, her mind weighed down by thoughts that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Every step she took seemed to echo against the walls, a reminder of the world she had been born into, a world of wealth, power, and meticulously curated appearances. Her parents, William and Victoria Carter, had shaped not just the landscape of Chicago's real estate market, but also the expectations for their only daughter. Madison loved them dearly, yet their influence often felt like an invisible leash, guiding her life in directions she had never chosen for herself. William Carter was a man of formidable presence, sharp-eyed and commanding even in his silence. His business acumen had earned him both admiration and fear in equal measure, and within the Carter household, his word was law. Victoria, elegant and poised, exuded a softer authority, her influence subtler but no less persuasive. She had taught Madison to navigate social gatherings with grace, to smile through conversation, and to understand that wealth often came with invisible expectations. Madison had learned early that defying their wishes was not merely frowned upon, it could unravel the carefully constructed world her parents had built. Despite the looming shadow of her parents' authority, Madison found herself daring to think about a life she could choose for herself. For weeks, she had wrestled with a desire that felt both natural and impossible, proposing marriage to Ryan Hayes. The thought of standing beside him, officially committing to the man she loved, filled her with warmth and anticipation. She imagined the simple joys, quiet mornings together, shared meals in a modest apartment, the comfort of a love unburdened by wealth or status. Yet each fantasy was tempered by a gnawing fear of her father's reaction. William would never approve of a match so starkly contrasting the family's social expectations. Sitting in the sunlit sitting room, Madison rehearsed the conversation in her mind, her fingers tracing the rim of her teacup nervously. "I have to do this," she whispered to herself. "I can't live my life bound by what my parents think. Ryan loves me for me, not for who my father wants me to be." Her heart thudded with a mixture of hope and anxiety. The idea of proposing to Ryan made her pulse quicken, but the reality of her father's authority hung over her like a storm cloud, threatening to shatter her dreams before they even began. Later that afternoon, Madison found herself in the expansive office of her father, a room lined with mahogany shelves filled with leather-bound ledgers and trophies that symbolized decades of power and success. William sat behind his massive desk, reviewing documents with his usual meticulous focus. When he looked up and saw Madison standing hesitantly at the doorway, a faint smile crossed his face, though his sharp gaze quickly softened. "Madison," he said, gesturing for her to sit, "what brings you here today? Business or social matters?" Madison took a deep breath, summoning the courage she had been building all morning. "Father, there's someone I care about," she began carefully, choosing her words with the precision she knew he would demand. "His name is Ryan Hayes. I want to marry him." The words lingered in the air, heavy and charged, and for a moment, William said nothing. His eyes, usually unreadable, darkened with a mixture of surprise and restrained disapproval. Madison's stomach tightened, but she refused to retreat. "He's honest, hard-working, and he loves me," she continued, her voice firm despite the nervous tremor underneath. William leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers, the silence stretching as he measured his response. "Madison," he said finally, his tone calm but unyielding, "you know I respect your feelings, but love alone does not determine a suitable match." Madison felt a pang of frustration. "Father, he may not have wealth or status, but he has integrity and a good heart. Isn't that more important than money or influence?" William's expression hardened. "You've grown up in a world that values excellence, Madison. I've worked my entire life to ensure that your future is secure, that you are married to a man who can complement not just you, but the Carter legacy." Madison's pulse quickened. "You mean you've already decided who I will marry?" she asked, a mixture of shock and defiance in her voice. William nodded slowly, his gaze unwavering. "Yes, Michael Reynolds. He comes from a respectable family, has solid business acumen, and embodies the principles we value. I've made arrangements for the engagement to proceed in the coming months." The words hit Madison like a physical blow, leaving her breathless and stunned. For a long moment, she could only stare at her father, trying to reconcile the man she had grown up loving with the rigid figure before her. "But I don't love him," she finally whispered, her voice barely audible. I love Ryan." William's expression remained firm, though a hint of exasperation crept into his features. "Madison, life is not a fairy tale. You will have responsibilities, expectations, and obligations that transcend personal desire. Michael Reynolds is not just a match, he is the right choice for you and for the family." Victoria entered the room silently, her presence commanding yet gentle. She placed a hand on Madison's shoulder and offered a sympathetic smile. "Darling, your father and I understand your heart, but you must also consider the world you are born into. We only want what is best for you." Madison's lips trembled as she looked between her parents, torn between love and duty. "But Ryan, he's everything I ever wanted. How can you dismiss him so easily?" Victoria sighed, her eyes softening. "Because, my dear, the world will not treat a man like Ryan fairly in our society. Your father and I are trying to protect you from hardships you cannot yet foresee." Madison's frustration and fear threatened to spill over. "Protect me or control me? There's a difference," she exclaimed. "I am guiding you, Madison. In time, you may understand that some decisions are not about what you want, but what is prudent. You will meet Michael, and I expect you to consider his suitability seriously." Madison sank back into the chair, her hands clenched in her lap. The weight of her parents' expectations pressed heavily against her chest, and for the first time, she felt the full gravity of the world she had been born into, one where love could be secondary to legacy and power. As she left her father's office, Madison's mind swirled with conflicted emotions. Hope battled despair, love fought duty, and a quiet determination began to take root. She would find a way to see Ryan, to hold on to the love that made her feel truly alive, even if it meant defying the world she had always known. In the shadows of the Carter estate, a secret longing had taken hold, one that would shape her choices, her heart, and the turbulent journey that lay ahead. The afternoon sunlight spilled across the Carter estate's grand foyer as Madison took a deep breath, clutching her purse tightly. Today was the day she would introduce Ryan Hayes to her father, a moment she had envisioned countless times, but never with such a heavy heart. She had rehearsed every word, imagined every possible outcome, and still the fear in her chest refused to subside. Ryan, too, looked nervous, fidgeting with the hem of his worn jacket and the scuffed sneakers on his feet. Unlike the polished man Madison's father favored, Ryan's appearance was modest, humble, and utterly unpretentious. Yet Madison knew this was the man she loved, and she had to stand by him, no matter the consequences. William Carter was seated in his office, the air thick with the scent of leather and aged mahogany. He looked up as Madison entered, and his expression sharpened slightly upon noticing Ryan behind her. "Madison," he said, his voice formal but tinged with curiosity, "and this must be the gentleman you mentioned?" Madison nodded, offering a tentative smile. "Yes, father, this is Ryan Hayes. Ryan, this is my father, William Carter." Ryan extended his hand, his grip firm despite the obvious tension, and said politely, "Sir, it's an honor to meet you." William's eyes swept over Ryan from head to toe, noting the casual jacket, the slightly unkempt hair, and the sneakers that betrayed his modest background. William's lips pressed into a thin line as he leaned back in his chair. "I see," he said slowly, his tone carefully measured but dripping with disapproval. "You are not exactly what I expected." Ryan's jaw tightened, and a flicker of anger passed across his face. Madison reached for his hand instinctively, sensing the storm about to erupt. "Father, please," she began, her voice steady but urgent. "Ryan is an honest man. He may not have wealth or status, but he loves me genuinely." William raised an eyebrow, his gaze cutting. "Love does not pay bills, Madison. Love does not ensure your security. Love does not preserve a legacy." Ryan's fists clenched at his sides, his patience wearing thin. "With all due respect, sir," he said, his voice rising slightly, "I don't need your approval to love Madison. She is mine, and I will not let anyone, least of all wealth or status, take her away from me." Madison's heart sank. She knew Ryan's emotions were raw, but she also knew the risk in his words. Her father's expression darkened, and his tone grew sharp. "Take her away? You misunderstand your place here, Mr. Hayes. Madison is my daughter, and you are, at best, an unproven man with little to offer. This relationship ends now." The tension in the room became palpable, the air thick with confrontation. Ryan took a step closer, his eyes blazing with defiance. "No," he said firmly, his voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through him. "I love her, and I will fight for her if I must. If you refuse to allow this, I will take her with me. I don't care about the consequences. Madison is my future." Madison gasped, placing a hand on his chest to stop him. "Ryan, please, don't say that. We can handle this, carefully. We don't have to." Her words faltered under the intensity of the moment, but Ryan shook his head, his determination unshakable. William's face flushed with anger, and he slammed his hand on the desk, causing Ryan to flinch. "Enough!" he thundered, his voice echoing through the office. "Do you have any idea what you are saying? Threatening my daughter? Threatening me? You are reckless and foolish, and I will not allow this insolence in my house." Madison's eyes welled with tears, caught between the man she loved and the father she respected. "Ryan, please," she whispered, her voice trembling. "We have to leave. We can talk later." Ryan's jaw tightened, but he glanced at Madison, seeing the fear in her eyes. Slowly, he took a step back, the fire in his gaze dimming just slightly. He leaned down and pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead, his voice low and strained. "I promise, Madison, I will wait, but this isn't over. Not now, not ever." Madison nodded, holding back sobs, and squeezed his hand briefly before letting go. She turned to her father, swallowing the lump in her throat. "Father, I understand. I'll speak to Ryan later in private," she said softly, trying to convey both obedience and the lingering hope in her heart. William's shoulders slumped slightly, though his voice remained firm. "You will meet him privately? Be careful, Madison. This is not a game. He may think his intentions are noble, but his approach is reckless. One wrong move could ruin everything." Madison nodded again, feeling a mixture of guilt and defiance. She understood her father's caution, yet she also understood her own heart. Ryan was not perfect, and he may have acted impulsively, but his love was undeniable, and she could not simply dismiss it. Ryan lingered near the doorway, his expression torn between anger and concern. "I'll give you space, Madison," he said quietly, "but I won't give up on us. Remember that." Madison wiped a tear from her cheek, her voice choked but determined. "I won't forget, Ryan. I'll find a way, I promise. Just wait for me." With a final, lingering look, Ryan turned and left the office, the sound of the front door closing echoing ominously through the grand halls. As Madison watched him leave, her father's presence felt heavier than ever. "This is why I worry, Madison," William said, his voice low but edged with authority. "You are naive if you think love alone can overcome the challenges that life and our world will impose. I have arranged what is best for you, and I expect you to comply." Madison nodded, swallowing hard, her emotions a whirlwind of frustration, fear, and longing. "Yes, Father," she said softly, though in her heart she knew her story with Ryan was far from over. Later that evening, Madison found a quiet corner in the estate's sprawling gardens, the fading sunlight casting long shadows across the perfectly manicured lawns. She pressed her phone to her ear, and Ryan's voice came through immediately, filled with concern. "Are you all right?" he asked, his tone gentle but wary. Madison took a deep breath, fighting back tears. "I'm fine for now, but we have to be careful. We can't let anyone know we're seeing each other, at least not yet." Ryan's sigh was audible, laden with frustration. "I understand, Madison. I'll wait, but it hurts." Madison's fingers trembled slightly as she replied, "I know, Ryan. It hurts me too, but we'll find a way, I promise. We'll meet again, in secret. Just give me a little time to think, to plan." Ryan's voice softened, though the longing in it was undeniable. "I'll wait. I'll always wait for you, Madison." They hung up, leaving Madison alone in the garden, the night air cool against her face. She leaned against the stone railing, feeling the weight of the confrontation pressing down on her. She knew that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, yet a spark of determination flickered within her. Madison realized that love was not just about feelings, it was about courage, resilience, and sometimes sacrifice. She would honor her father's wishes outwardly, but in her heart, she remained devoted to Ryan. Their secret meetings would be their lifeline, a defiance of the world that sought to dictate their lives. And as the city lights of Chicago twinkled in the distance, Madison allowed herself a small, bitter smile. No matter what came next, she and Ryan had found each other, and that truth could not be taken away. The Carter estate was unusually quiet that evening, the kind of silence that made Madison feel both suffocated and painfully aware of the world she could never fully escape. She wandered through the drawing room, her fingers brushing the smooth fabric of the antique sofa as if seeking comfort from the weight pressing on her heart. The confrontation with her father earlier that day still lingered like a dark cloud. Ryan's words echoed in her mind, the intensity of his love, his unyielding determination to claim her. And yet, the stern, unrelenting voice of William Carter reminded her of the obligations she could not ignore. Madison felt as if she were being pulled apart, torn between two realities, one of passion and authenticity with Ryan, and one of duty, security, and the legacy of her family. Victoria entered quietly, her eyes full of concern, but her expression calm and measured as always. "Madison," she said softly, placing a gentle hand on her daughter's shoulder, "you've been distant all day. What troubles you so?" Madison turned, her eyes brimming with tears she refused to shed fully. "Mother, I love him," she whispered, her voice cracking slightly. "Ryan, he's everything I've ever wanted. But Father, he says I must marry Michael Reynolds. I don't know what to do." Victoria sighed, pulling her into a comforting embrace. "I know, my darling. I understand your heart better than anyone. But your father, he is afraid, just as he is trying to protect you. He believes that choosing Michael is safeguarding your future, and we both know he will not bend easily." Madison's heart ached as she listened. The love she had for Ryan had been a secret she guarded fiercely, a fragile flame that risked being snuffed out by her father's disapproval. She had thought they could find a way to be together, to meet in secret, to hold on to their love despite the world's constraints. But as the night wore on, the reality of her situation became impossible to ignore. She could not defy her father outright, not yet. She thought of Ryan, waiting somewhere, unaware of how impossible the circumstances had grown. "I can't live like this forever," she murmured, her voice trembling. "I can't hurt him, but I can't hurt my family either." The following day, William confronted Madison in the library, his expression grim, his usually calm demeanor carrying a hint of desperation. "Madison," he said, his voice low but unwavering, "if you attempt to leave, if you try to be with Ryan against my will, I will not survive it. Do you understand what I am saying?" Madison froze, her pulse quickening. "Father, don't say that," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. You can't threaten to hurt yourself." William's gaze softened for a moment, but his tone remained firm. "I am not threatening, Madison. I am telling you the truth. My world, my life revolves around this family, and losing control of it, losing you, would destroy me. You must obey, for all our sakes." Madison's throat tightened, caught between her love and her duty, as she nodded silently, understanding the impossible choice before her. Later that evening, as dusk settled over the city, Madison slipped out of the estate quietly. Her heart pounded with anticipation and sorrow as she made her way to the familiar park where she and Ryan had shared countless secret moments. The shadows of the trees stretched long across the path, and the soft hum of distant traffic underscored the intensity of her emotions. When Ryan appeared, his expression brightened at the sight of her, and he took a step forward instinctively. "Madison," he exclaimed, relief and longing mingling in his voice. "I've been waiting for you. Are you all right?" Madison's lips trembled as she forced a smile. I need to talk to you, Ryan, alone." They sat on the worn wooden bench beneath a large oak tree, its branches swaying gently in the evening breeze. Madison took a deep breath, the weight of her decision pressing heavily on her chest. "Ryan, I love you," she began softly, her hands trembling as she clasped his. "You know I do, but I can't be with you, not like this. My father, my family, I have obligations I cannot ignore." Ryan's eyes widened in disbelief, hurt flashing across his features. "What are you saying?" he asked, his voice breaking. "You're saying it's over?" Madison nodded slowly, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry, Ryan. I have to honor my family. I can't risk everything. Please understand, it's not because I don't love you. It's because I must obey them, for now." Ryan's hands tightened around hers, his face a mixture of anger, disbelief, and raw grief. "For now?" he repeated sharply, his voice rising with emotion. "Do you have any idea what you're asking of me? Of us? Madison, I can't just let you go. You are mine, and I won't stand aside while you are taken from me." Madison flinched at the intensity of his words. "Ryan, please, calm down. We can find another way. We can—" He shook his head violently, interrupting her. "No, there is no other way if your father will not accept me. I can't live in this half-life, waiting and hoping. If I cannot have you, Madison, I swear I will destroy everything you love. Everything." His voice quivered, the mix of anger and fury cutting deep into Madison's heart. She clutched his hands tightly, desperation in her voice. "Ryan, stop! That's not who you are. You're not a man who destroys things out of anger. Please listen to me. I'm telling you this because I love you. I have to protect us, even if it means staying apart for a while." Ryan's chest heaved as he struggled to contain his emotions, the tension between love and rage palpable. "You can't protect me from loving you, Madison. I can't just let this go." He buried his face in his hands, and for a moment, the raw vulnerability beneath his anger was painfully evident. Madison reached out and touched his shoulder gently. "Ryan, please," she whispered, her voice breaking. "We will find a way someday, but tonight we must part. I'll meet you in secret later, when the world is quieter and we can think clearly. You have to promise me you'll wait. Please wait for me." Ryan looked up at her, tears streaking his face, and nodded reluctantly, though his eyes glimmered with the storm still raging inside him. I'll wait," he said, voice hoarse. "But Madison, remember this. If the world ever tries to take you from me again, I won't hold back. You are mine, and I won't let go without a fight." Madison pressed her forehead against his, feeling the intensity of their shared pain. "I know, Ryan, I know," she whispered softly, "and I'll find a way to see you. Just please try to hold yourself together until then." They sat in silence for several moments, listening to the distant hum of the city and the rustle of leaves in the breeze, each aware of the impossible choices they faced. Though their hearts yearned to be together, the world around them demanded patience, caution, and sacrifice. As Madison finally rose to leave, Ryan held her hand tightly, his gaze never leaving hers. "I'll wait," he said again, more quietly this time, a promise and a warning intertwined. Madison nodded, tears falling freely now, and pressed a gentle kiss to his knuckles. "And I'll keep my promise," she replied softly. With a final lingering look, she turned and walked back toward the estate, each step heavy with sorrow, yet strengthened by resolve. She knew their love was far from over, even if the path ahead was fraught with pain, heartache, and the impossible choices imposed by duty. That night, as Madison lay in her bed surrounded by the opulence of her world, she felt a strange mixture of despair and determination. She had obeyed her father, at least outwardly, but in her heart, Ryan remained her anchor, her forbidden love, and her guiding light. And she knew, with a certainty that no wealth or power could shake, that their story had only just begun. The small apartment Ryan Hayes called home was modest, but it held warmth and memories that money could never buy. The faded curtains, the chipped kitchen table, and the few framed photographs on the walls spoke of a life built on love, perseverance, and sacrifice. Evelyn Hayes, Ryan's mother, moved about the kitchen with her usual quiet efficiency, humming softly as she prepared dinner. She had always been a beacon of comfort and guidance in Ryan's life, raising him alone after his father had abandoned them. Her love was steady, unwavering, and unconditional. To Ryan, Evelyn's home was the one place in the world where he felt truly safe and understood. Ryan entered quietly, his shoulders heavy with a burden he could no longer keep inside. He had spent the afternoon pacing, trying to reconcile the events of the day with his overwhelming emotions. Madison's words, the confrontation with William Carter, and the impossible choice she had been forced to make weighed on him like stones. He tried to steady his breath as he approached the kitchen. "Mom," he said, his voice tense and unsteady. Evelyn looked up from her task, a warm smile spreading across her face. "Ryan, you're home early. How's everything?" Ryan swallowed hard, trying to find the right words, but the lump in his throat made it almost impossible. He stepped closer, his eyes glistening with emotion. "Mom, I need to tell you something important." Evelyn set down the wooden spoon she had been holding and motioned for him to sit. "Of course, honey. Whatever it is, you can tell me. I'm here for you." She gestured to the small table by the window, and Ryan lowered himself into the chair, his hands clasped tightly in front of him. The room, usually filled with warmth and familiarity, suddenly felt suffocating. Ryan's voice cracked as he finally spoke. "It's Madison. She's leaving me. She can't be with me. Her father, he won't allow it." Evelyn's eyes widened in shock, and she instinctively reached across the table to grasp his hands. "What? Madison? Leaving you? Ryan, that can't be true." Ryan shook his head, his jaw tight with anguish. "I know, Mom, I know, but she has no choice. Her father, he's forcing her to marry someone else. She had to promise him she would leave me." Evelyn's hands trembled as she pressed them to her chest, her eyes welling with tears. No, this isn't right. My boy, Ryan, you've loved her so truly. You've always been honest, hardworking. This shouldn't happen to you." Ryan reached out to hold her hand, hoping to offer some comfort, though he felt none himself. "I tried, Mom. I tried everything. I even told her we could run away, but she wouldn't. She had to obey her father. She said she'll meet me in secret one last time, but after that, it's over." Evelyn's face paled and a shiver ran through her body. She sank into her chair, gripping the edge of the table for support. "No, I can't bear this. My son, my only son. I can't lose you to this heartbreak." Ryan's heart clenched at the sight of his mother so distraught. He had always been strong for her, always tried to shield her from the harsh realities of life, but now he realized that he could not protect her from the pain of his own. "Mom, please, sit down, breathe. It's going to be okay." His voice trembled despite his attempts at calm. Evelyn shook her head, her vision blurred with tears, and her hands dropped helplessly to her lap. "No, it's not okay. Nothing about this is okay. I raised you to be strong, Ryan, to love without compromise. And now I see you, heartbroken, and there's nothing I can do. I can't." Her words cut off abruptly as she gasped, clutching her chest. Ryan's eyes widened in alarm. Mom, what's wrong?" He sprang from his chair and knelt beside her, supporting her as she slumped forward. "Mom, talk to me. What's happening?" Evelyn struggled to speak, her voice a faint whisper. "My heart, it can't take this. Ryan, your heartbreak, it's too much." Ryan's own tears blurred his vision as he realized what was happening. "Mom, no, don't say that. Stay with me. Please, stay." He held her tightly, shaking her gently as panic surged through him. But Evelyn's body had already begun to betray her, her chest heaving in shallow, irregular breaths. She coughed once, then collapsed into Ryan's arms, her strength finally spent. Ryan screamed her name, his voice filled with raw anguish. "No, Mom, Evelyn, stay with me. You can't leave me too." He cradled her lifeless form, his tears soaking her blouse. The small apartment, once a sanctuary of love and comfort, became a place of unspeakable grief. Ryan's chest heaved with sobs, his mind spiraling as he tried to comprehend the sudden, unbearable loss. Evelyn, the one constant in his life, was gone, taken not by illness, but by the shock of the heartbreak that had consumed her. For hours, Ryan sat in the dimly lit kitchen, holding his mother's favorite scarf, the scent of her perfume lingering faintly. The reality of her death was an unbearable weight pressing on his chest, and the anger that had simmered within him since Madison had left now began to boil over. How could the world allow such cruelty? How could fate conspire to take away the woman who had always loved him, and the girl who had captured his heart? His grief was now entwined with rage, each emotion feeding the other, leaving him trembling with a dangerous intensity. He clenched his fists, his mind racing with possibilities. The love he had once poured into protecting and cherishing Madison now carried a darker edge. "If I can't have her, if the world won't let her be mine, then I'll make sure no one stands in my way," he whispered fiercely to the empty room. "I'll rise, I'll fight, and I'll take what is rightfully mine. I won't let anyone take her from me again." His grief had transformed into a determination tinged with vengeance, a seed that would grow into schemes, plans, and a relentless pursuit of both love and retribution. Ryan rose slowly, the room around him silent except for the occasional hum of the city outside. He looked around at the modest apartment, at the photographs of happier times with his mother, and the memories that now felt unbearably painful. But he also felt a spark, fueled by loss, fueled by love, that would not be extinguished. Evelyn's death had left an emptiness, but it had also ignited a fire within him. He would channel his pain, his anger, and his heartbreak into action. Madison may have been forced to leave him, but Ryan Hayes would not be broken. He would rise, he would succeed, and one day, he would confront the world that had tried to keep them apart. As the night deepened, Ryan stood by the window, staring at the Chicago skyline. Tears streamed down his face, but beneath them, determination glimmered. His past losses, the heartbreak, the family struggles, and now the death of his beloved mother, were turning into a resolve that could not be ignored. He whispered softly to himself, a vow more to his own heart than anyone else. "Madison, one day, you'll see. I will come back stronger, smarter, and unstoppable. I will protect what is mine, and I will make sure no one dares to hurt us again." The city lights reflected in his eyes, glimmering like the embers of a storm that was only just beginning. The morning of the wedding dawned clear and bright over Chicago, but Madison Carter felt little of the cheer surrounding the event. The grand hall of the Carter estate was adorned with flowers and glimmering chandeliers, yet her heart was heavy with the memory of Ryan Hayes and the impossible choice she had been forced to make. Dressed in a white gown that shimmered softly in the sunlight, she moved gracefully through the crowds of guests, offering polite smiles and acknowledging congratulations. Every step toward the altar felt like a step further away from the life she truly wanted. Yet Madison carried herself with quiet dignity, determined not to let her sorrow show. Michael Reynolds waited at the altar, composed and poised, radiating a calm confidence that Madison had observed in him during their few prior meetings. He was handsome, with an intelligent gaze and a gentle smile that suggested kindness rather than arrogance. Though Madison did not love him, she could not deny the comfort in his presence. The way he treated her with respect, the way he seemed aware of the tension in her demeanor and did not push her beyond her limits. As Madison approached, Michael extended his hand, his voice soft but steady. "Madison, it's an honor to be your husband," he said sincerely. She nodded, her throat tight with emotion, and whispered, "Thank you, Michael. I hope we can find happiness together." The ceremony was a blend of tradition and elegance, and though Madison's heart ached with the absence of Ryan, she could not ignore the genuine warmth in Michael's demeanor. During the vows, he spoke with sincerity, his voice unwavering. "Madison, I promise to respect you, to protect you, and to support you in every way. I understand this union may not have begun with love, but I vow to make it one filled with trust, patience, and care." Madison felt a strange mixture of relief and uncertainty. Relief because Michael's words promised safety and kindness, and uncertainty because her heart remained tethered to a love she could not forget. Once the ceremony concluded, Madison and Michael departed for New York City, where Michael's household awaited. The journey north was long, and Madison gazed out of the car window, the cityscape slowly giving way to the urban sprawl of Manhattan. Her mind was a swirl of thoughts, the life she had left behind, the man she had loved, and the uncertain path she now faced. Michael, sensing her unrest, spoke gently. "Madison, I know this transition is difficult. Please know that I am not here to rush or force you into anything. Take your time. We will build our life together at a pace that feels right for you." Madison looked at him, a flicker of gratitude crossing her face. His patience was unlike anything she had anticipated. Arriving at the Reynolds residence, Madison was introduced to the other members of Michael's household, Veronica Reynolds, his stepmother, and his step-siblings Brandon and Nicole. Veronica was a woman of striking appearance, her elegance complemented by a sharp, calculating gaze. She welcomed Madison politely, though Madison detected an underlying tension, a subtle measuring of the newcomer who had suddenly entered their lives. Brandon, tall and confident with a mischievous glint in his eye, extended a hand that Madison shook hesitantly, while Nicole, younger and impressionable, studied Madison with curiosity and subtle skepticism. Michael led Madison to her new quarters, a spacious room overlooking the city, tastefully furnished, yet markedly different from the opulence of her childhood home. "This will be your space," he said warmly. "I want you to feel comfortable, to have a place where you can be yourself without pressure or expectation." Madison looked around, noting the simplicity and elegance, and for the first time that day, she felt a small measure of hope. "Thank you, Michael," she replied softly. "It's lovely." His smile was gentle, unassuming, and reassuring, and Madison felt a pang of guilt for the warmth she sensed, despite her lingering feelings for Ryan. The first days in the Reynolds household were a mixture of adjustment and observation. Veronica seemed to view Madison with a guarded curiosity, her politeness layered over subtle scrutiny. Brandon was friendly but bold, occasionally testing boundaries with casual comments and sly glances, while Nicole observed quietly, forming opinions in silence. Madison quickly learned that patience, discretion, and tact would be essential to navigate this new environment. Michael, sensing her unease, never failed to provide quiet support. "Madison," he said one evening as they dined privately, "you don't need to prove anything to anyone here. Let them form their own opinions. I trust you, and that is all that matters." As days turned into weeks, Madison began to appreciate Michael's thoughtful approach. He did not rush her into affection, did not demand declarations of love, and respected her boundaries as she gradually adapted to her new life. "I know this isn't easy for you," he said one evening as they strolled through the terrace garden, the city lights shimmering below. But I promise you, Madison, I will not make this marriage a prison. It is a partnership, and I intend to earn your trust and your heart, not force it." Madison glanced at him, her emotions a mixture of gratitude and unease. I appreciate that, Michael, truly. It's different from what I expected." Despite her initial reluctance, Madison began to notice small gestures that spoke volumes about Michael's character. He remembered her preferences, anticipated her needs without being intrusive, and consistently demonstrated a quiet respect for her independence. During a brief misunderstanding with Brandon, who attempted to tease her about her background, Michael calmly intervened. "Brandon, Madison deserves respect, not jokes at her expense," he said firmly. Brandon's smirk faltered, and Madison felt a surge of relief and gratitude. Michael had not only protected her dignity, but done so without humiliation or confrontation. Veronica, meanwhile, seemed to have her own agenda, often subtly probing Madison for information about her personal assets and business knowledge. Madison remained composed, answering politely but never revealing more than necessary. She quickly realized that her prudence was crucial in navigating the complex family dynamics of the Reynolds household. Michael, perceptive as ever, offered quiet reassurance. "Do not worry about her schemes," he said one afternoon as Madison confided in him. "I am aware of her motives, and I will handle them. You focus on yourself, not the games of others." His unwavering support gave Madison a sense of safety she had not anticipated in a marriage she had once viewed as a compromise. As weeks passed, Madison found herself gradually opening up to Michael's presence. His patience and respect allowed her to breathe, to feel valued not for her wealth or status, but for who she was. He never pressed for affection, never rushed intimacy, and allowed her the space to grieve, adjust, and consider her feelings. Madison began to understand that while her love for Ryan remained a deep, tender ache in her heart, Michael offered her a different kind of love, steady, compassionate, and enduring. It was a love rooted not in passion alone, but in respect, understanding, and shared commitment. By the time their first month together had passed, Madison realized that her marriage, though born of circumstance, was gradually transforming into something meaningful. Michael's consistent kindness and respect had begun to break down the walls of resistance she had built around her heart. "Michael," she said one evening as they shared a quiet dinner in the family dining room, I want to thank you for being patient, for understanding. I didn't expect any of this, but I am grateful." Michael smiled warmly, his gaze tender. "Madison, gratitude is not necessary. I only want you to feel safe, respected, and heard. That is all I have ever wanted." As Madison reflected on her new life, she felt a mixture of relief, uncertainty, and cautious hope. She had honored her family, survived the storm of heartache, and found herself in a household that, while complex and at times challenging, offered her security and respect. The path ahead was still uncertain. Ryan's memory lingered, and the world outside was unpredictable. But for the first time in months, Madison felt a flicker of peace. With Michael by her side, she had a chance to build a life rooted in patience, trust, and a love that, though slower to grow, promised stability and warmth.
The Reynolds estate in New York exuded opulence at every turn, but beneath the polished marble floors and crystal chandeliers lurked a quiet tension that Madison had begun to notice more acutely. Veronica Reynolds, Michael's stepmother, had grown increasingly bold in her attempts to exert influence over Madison. What had initially seemed like polite curiosity now carried an unmistakable undercurrent of calculation, and Madison felt the weight of scrutiny with every word and gesture. That afternoon, as Madison sorted through letters in the study, Veronica approached with a deliberate, measured grace, her eyes sharp and assessing. "Madison," she said, her voice syrupy with false warmth, "I wanted to talk to you about your assets and how they might be best utilized for the family." Madison looked up, her hands tightening around a stack of envelopes. "Veronica, I'm not sure I understand. My assets? What exactly do you mean?" Veronica's smile did not reach her eyes. "You've been quite successful on your own, Madison. Surely you wouldn't mind putting your resources to good use to support Michael's ventures and, by extension, the family's legacy." Madison felt a chill run down her spine. The conversation was not about shared family goals. It was about control, manipulation, and subtly testing her willingness to relinquish independence. "I appreciate the suggestion," Madison replied cautiously, "but I believe my personal assets should remain under my own discretion. I trust Michael to make decisions for our joint investments, and I prefer to keep personal holdings separate." Veronica's smile faltered for just a fraction of a second before she recovered, her tone sweet but carrying an unmistakable edge. "Oh, of course, dear. I only hope you understand that family always comes first. One day, I'm sure you'll see the benefits of sharing more freely." Madison nodded politely, hiding the tension that tightened her chest. The encounter left her unsettled, a gnawing sense that the household, while welcoming in appearance, had forces aligned against her. She knew she could not let fear dictate her actions, but she also understood the importance of vigilance in a home where appearances were carefully maintained and schemes often masked by courtesy. Later that evening, Madison confided in Michael as they walked through the terrace garden, the city skyline glowing in the distance. "Michael, Veronica approached me today," she admitted, her voice low, tinged with frustration. "She wants me to hand over my assets. I can't tell if it's a test or if she's scheming. I don't know how to respond without causing tension." Michael took her hand gently, his touch reassuring. "Madison," he said, his voice calm and steady, "you've done exactly the right thing. Patience is key here. Veronica will test you. She always does. But I trust you and I know your integrity. We won't let her undermine us." Madison felt a small flicker of relief. Michael's unwavering support was a balm to her frayed nerves, and for the first time since arriving in New York, she felt a measure of confidence that she could navigate the subtle intrigues of the household. That night, as Madison prepared for bed, she found herself reflecting on the household dynamics and the subtle tensions that had begun to surface. She recalled the fleeting looks exchanged between Veronica and her daughter Nicole during the day, a shared glance that had spoken volumes without words. Something about their behavior suggested collaboration, a plan beyond mere curiosity or oversight. Madison knew she could not rely solely on instinct. She needed confirmation. Quietly, she sought counsel from Mrs. Patel, the housekeeper, who had been with the Reynolds family for many years. The older woman had a perceptive mind and a loyalty that transcended ordinary duty.
"Mrs. Patel," Madison began carefully, "I need your advice. I feel something is off with Veronica and Nicole. There are schemes, perhaps involving Michael's business or my own assets. Have you noticed anything unusual?" Mrs. Patel paused, adjusting her apron as she considered her words. "Madam Madison, you are correct to be cautious. I have seen certain papers and overheard conversations that suggest plans not in your or Mr. Michael's favor. Nicole has been curious about your financial matters, and Veronica has not been entirely forthcoming about her intentions. It's subtle, but I can keep watch for you and alert you if anything comes to light." Madison felt a wave of gratitude. With Mrs. Patel's insight, she would be able to navigate the household's undercurrents more effectively, protecting both herself and Michael from schemes that threatened their stability. The next morning, Madison carefully observed the interactions between Veronica and Nicole. She noticed the same quiet glances, the hushed conversations near the study, and the way certain documents were subtly redirected when she entered a room. With Mrs. Patel's guidance, Madison began documenting these occurrences, not with accusation, but with prudence and foresight. She realized that awareness was her first line of defense, and that patience, paired with careful observation, could allow her to respond effectively when the moment called for it. That evening, after a particularly tense dinner where Veronica made pointed comments about Madison's generosity and family spirit, Madison sought solace in Michael's study. He looked up from his desk, a warm, reassuring smile softening the stern lines of his face. "Madison," he said gently, "I can see today has been difficult. Tell me what's troubling you." She explained the subtle manipulations, the pointed comments, and the schemes she had begun to uncover with Mrs. Patel's help. Michael listened attentively, never interrupting, never doubting her observations. When she finished, Michael reached across the desk and took her hands in his. "Madison, you are not alone in this. I see your vigilance, your care, and your dedication to both our lives and our future. Veronica and Nicole may try, but they will never succeed as long as we remain united and patient. You have my full trust, my support, and my unconditional love. That is not something they can ever take away." Madison felt a warmth spread through her chest, a reassurance that no scheme, no manipulation could shake the foundation they were building together. Michael's faith in her strengthened her resolve and allowed her to confront the challenges with newfound courage.
In the days that followed, Madison began to implement small, strategic steps to protect their household and assets. She collaborated with Mrs. Patel to monitor financial documents and household interactions, subtly observing patterns and anomalies. Veronica, unaware of Madison's discreet vigilance, continued her attempts at influence, while Madison, guided by patience and careful planning, deflected each challenge with grace and tact. She realized that Michael's counsel was invaluable, not only in providing reassurance, but in modeling a balanced approach to conflict that emphasized respect, patience, and trust over impulsive confrontation. One afternoon, as Madison reviewed letters in the library, Michael entered quietly. He smiled at her, sensing the weight she had been carrying. "Madison," he said softly, "how are you feeling about everything? I know Veronica and Nicole are persistent, but I see the way you handle it, with intelligence, grace, and patience. That is the kind of strength I admire." Madison looked up, meeting his eyes, and felt a deep sense of gratitude. "Thank you, Michael. Your trust, it means more than I can say. I was worried I'd be overpowered, but knowing you are by my side, I feel stronger." Michael leaned closer, his voice tender. "We are a team, Madison, always. No one can shake what we have built, our respect, our patience, and our love." As night fell over the Reynolds estate, Madison reflected on the complex dynamics of her new life. She understood that patience, vigilance, and careful strategy were as important as love and trust. With Michael's unwavering support and Mrs. Patel's insight, she felt capable of navigating the shadows that lurked within the household. The challenges ahead were significant, but Madison realized she was no longer alone. Together, she and Michael would face whatever schemes, manipulations, or obstacles came their way, and they would do so with integrity, patience, and love that neither Veronica nor Nicole could undermine.
The Reynolds estate was quiet that afternoon, with only the soft hum of the city outside the large windows to break the silence. Madison had been in the library, reviewing documents for Michael's business venture, when she noticed Brandon lingering near the doorway. At first, she assumed he simply wanted to speak with Michael, but his sly smile and the lingering gaze that followed her every movement unsettled her. Brandon had always been a charming, confident presence in the household, but there was a subtle arrogance about him, a sense of entitlement that Madison had quietly observed. Today, that arrogance seemed directed squarely at her. "Madison," Brandon said smoothly as he stepped closer, leaning casually against the edge of the desk, "you've been working so hard. Don't you think you deserve a break?" Madison glanced up, wary. "I appreciate your concern, Brandon, but I'm fine," she replied, her tone polite but firm. She could sense the underlying implication in his words, the unspoken suggestion that he was offering more than just company or conversation. Madison's instincts screamed caution, and she kept her focus on the papers in front of her, refusing to rise to the bait. Brandon moved a step closer, lowering his voice into a husky whisper. "You know, Michael isn't always here. Sometimes a little companionship, a little fun, could help take the edge off all this work. I just want to make you happy." Madison's stomach twisted with discomfort. She looked directly at him, her gaze steely. "Brandon, I am married to Michael," she said, her voice firm and unwavering. "I will not betray him, and I will not entertain anything that disrespects our marriage. If this is your idea of fun, you should leave immediately." For a moment, Brandon's confidence faltered. He had expected hesitation, perhaps even curiosity, but not the resolute firmness in Madison's voice. She stood, her posture straight, meeting his gaze without fear. "I am serious," she continued. "I will not allow anyone, not even you, to undermine the trust and love Michael has shown me. Leave now, before I lose my patience." Brandon, realizing that Madison was unwavering, straightened and attempted a charming smile, though it no longer held its usual effect. All right," he said, his tone edging with frustration. "No harm meant, just trying to be friendly." Madison ignored the half-hearted excuse and returned to her papers, her heart still racing from the confrontation. As fate would have it, Michael arrived at the estate earlier than expected, returning from a business meeting in Manhattan. He entered the library quietly, noticing the tension in the room immediately. "Is everything all right?" he asked, his eyes flicking between Madison and Brandon. Madison's composure remained intact, but she felt a surge of relief at Michael's presence. "Michael, Brandon just attempted something inappropriate," she explained, her voice calm but laced with gravity. "I rejected him firmly, but I wanted you to know." Michael's expression darkened, his usually calm demeanor tightening into controlled anger. Brandon, sensing that the situation had shifted, tried to maintain a casual demeanor. "Michael, I didn't mean anything by it," he said, shrugging. "It was just a joke, really. You know, household banter." Michael's eyes narrowed. "Brandon, a joke does not involve disrespecting your wife. Madison has made her position clear, and you crossed a boundary. I expect better from someone in this household." His voice carried authority, tempered by reason, but there was no mistaking the steel beneath it. Madison felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. Michael's support and defense had been immediate, firm, and unwavering. Veronica, who had been in the hallway outside, had overheard the exchange and quickly entered the library. Her eyes widened slightly, but she recovered almost immediately, adopting a tone of faux concern. "Michael, surely this is an exaggeration. Brandon would never act inappropriately. He's your stepson, and you know him well." Michael shook his head, his gaze sharp. "No, Veronica. Madison has been clear. Brandon's behavior was unacceptable, and it will not be tolerated. This household must respect the sanctity of our marriage, and anyone who cannot do that is free to leave."
Madison watched as the tension in the room mounted. Veronica's carefully controlled expression flickered with irritation, though she hid it behind a mask of civility. Brandon, realizing he had no ally, looked to his mother for support, but Michael's tone left no room for negotiation. "You heard me," Michael said, his voice firm. "Respect is not optional. Anyone unwilling to uphold it is welcome to leave the household immediately." Madison felt a quiet pride swell within her. Michael's courage and decisiveness reinforced the trust she had placed in him, proving once again that his love was not only patient but protective. Veronica's smile stiffened, and she gave a slight bow, her voice icy yet polite. "Very well, Michael, if that is your decision." She glanced at Brandon, then at Nicole, who had appeared quietly at the doorway, witnessing the unfolding scene. "We will leave then," she said, her tone carefully controlled but tinged with warning. Brandon and Nicole exchanged quick, frustrated glances, but Michael's unwavering stance left them no alternative. "Good. I wish you the best elsewhere," Michael said firmly, his eyes unwavering as he spoke. Madison felt a mixture of relief and vindication as the family members gathered their belongings and exited the room. Once the household was quiet again, Michael turned to Madison, his expression softening. He reached out and took her hands gently in his eyes filled with reassurance and love. "Madison, are you all right?"
he asked quietly. "You were brave, and I am proud of the way you handled yourself. You have nothing to fear here, not with me." Madison exhaled, the tension leaving her shoulders, and allowed herself a small, grateful smile. "Thank you, Michael. Your support means everything. I didn't want to cause a scene, but I also couldn't ignore his behavior." Michael drew her closer, a protective gesture that reassured Madison in ways words alone could not. "You did exactly what was necessary," he said softly. "Boundaries must be respected, and you upheld yours with strength and dignity. That is part of what makes me love you, Madison. Not just your grace, but your courage in the face of discomfort." Madison felt a warmth spread through her chest, a mixture of relief, gratitude, and something else, an acknowledgement that Michael's love was real, steadfast, and unconditional. In the days that followed, the household settled into a calmer rhythm. Brandon, Veronica, and Nicole had left the estate temporarily, their departure a temporary reprieve from tension and schemes. Madison felt a renewed sense of security, bolstered by Michael's unwavering support and the knowledge that she was not alone in defending the integrity of their home. The confrontation, though stressful, had also solidified the trust and connection between Madison and Michael, reinforcing the foundation of their marriage not only in love, but in mutual respect and protection. Madison reflected on the events as she walked through the terrace garden one evening with Michael by her side. "It's strange," she said softly, "how quickly things can change. I thought this household would be more complicated, more difficult. And yet, with your support, I feel stronger than I expected." Michael smiled, squeezing her hand gently in his. "That is because we face these challenges together, Madison. Love is not just about passion or romance. It's about trust, support, and standing up for each other when the world tests us. We have that, and no one can take it from us." Madison nodded, feeling a sense of peace she had not known in months. The episode with Brandon and the rest of the household had been a test, one that Madison and Michael had passed together. It was a reminder that love was not only about shared happiness, but about protecting each other, respecting boundaries, and facing adversity as a unified front. Madison realized that her marriage, though born of circumstance, was slowly becoming a partnership built on trust, respect, and a deepening bond that neither manipulation nor malice could shatter. Madison reflected on the events as she walked through the terrace garden one evening with Michael by her side. "It's strange," she said softly, "how quickly things can change. I thought this household would be more complicated, more difficult. And yet, with your support, I feel stronger than I expected." Michael smiled, squeezing her hand gently. "That is because we face these challenges together, Madison. Love is not just about passion or romance. It's about trust, support, and standing up for each other when the world tests us. We have that, and no one can take it from us." Madison nodded, feeling a sense of peace she had not known in months. The episode with Brandon and the rest of the household had been a test, one that Madison and Michael had passed together. It was a reminder that love was not only about shared happiness, but about protecting each other, respecting boundaries, and facing adversity as a unified front. Madison realized that her marriage, though born of circumstance, was slowly becoming a partnership built on trust, respect, and a deepening bond that neither manipulation nor malice could shatter. After the upheaval with Veronica, Brandon, and Nicole, Madison felt a newfound calm within the Reynolds estate. The tension that had once weighed heavily upon her seemed to have lifted, replaced by the quiet warmth of a household no longer tainted by manipulation and suspicion. She found herself observing Michael more closely, noticing the small gestures that spoke volumes about his character, the way he remembered the smallest details about her, the way he always ensured her comfort without ever asking for acknowledgement, and the subtle patience with which he guided her through the household's complexities. It was in these moments, quiet and unassuming, that Madison began to truly appreciate the depth of his devotion.
One evening, as they sat together in the terrace garden overlooking the glittering lights of New York City, Madison watched Michael read through his notes for a meeting, his brow slightly furrowed in concentration. There was a gentle strength in him that was unlike anything she had known. "Michael," she said softly, breaking the silence, "I've been thinking about everything that's happened, about us." He looked up from his papers, his eyes meeting hers, warm and attentive. "Yes, Madison," he replied gently, sensing the weight in her tone. She hesitated, searching for the right words to convey the complex emotions she felt. "I realize now," she continued, "that through all the trials, the challenges, and even the fear, you've been unwavering. You've trusted me, supported me, and cared for me in ways I didn't expect. I think I've started to feel something for you, something more than gratitude." Michael's face softened, a gentle smile forming on his lips. He reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers. "Madison, you don't have to explain further. I've felt the same, quietly, all along. I wanted to give you time to see for yourself, without pressure, without expectation. But hearing you say it, it's all I could hope for." Madison felt a flutter in her chest, a warmth she had long suppressed. The realization of her feelings brought with it a mixture of relief and nervous excitement. "Michael," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly, "I've been holding myself back because of everything, but I want to. I want to trust fully, to love fully. I don't want to miss the chance to be happy with you." Michael's eyes glimmered with emotion as he cupped her face gently in his hands. "Madison, you don't have to hold anything back with me. I will honor every part of your heart, every hesitation, every doubt. Love is patient, yes, but it is also brave. Let us be brave together." Their confession of love was tender, a culmination of weeks of shared experiences, trust-building, and quiet moments that had allowed their bond to deepen. That evening, in the privacy of their room, they shared an intimacy that was as emotional as it was physical. It was not merely a consummation of marriage in the literal sense, but a merging of hearts that had been waiting patiently for the right moment. Madison felt a sense of completeness she had never known, a sense that the pain and struggles of the past months had all led to this awakening. In the following days, their relationship continued to flourish in small, meaningful ways. Morning coffees on the terrace, long walks through Central Park, and late-night conversations became a rhythm of life that was comforting, grounding, and utterly rewarding. Michael's attentiveness never wavered. He noticed when Madison was anxious, celebrated her achievements with quiet pride, and consistently reassured her that she was never alone in navigating challenges, whether within the household or beyond. Madison found herself smiling more freely, laughing more easily, and feeling an emotional lightness she had not experienced since her early days with Ryan. During one particularly serene afternoon, Michael suggested a brief getaway to the countryside, a chance to escape the city and immerse themselves in tranquility. Madison eagerly agreed, relishing the opportunity to experience this new phase of their relationship. The trip was filled with moments of intimacy and discovery. Early morning walks along winding paths, the quiet beauty of a lake at sunrise, and the shared joy of simple activities, like preparing meals together in the cozy kitchen of their rented cottage. Each experience reinforced the connection they were building, layering trust with affection, comfort with desire. On the second day of their trip, Madison and Michael found themselves sitting under an old oak tree by the lake, the sun casting a warm golden glow over the water. Madison rested her head on Michael's shoulder, feeling the steady rhythm of his heart, a sound that had come to feel like home. "Michael," she murmured softly, "I never thought I could feel this way again. After everything with Ryan, I thought my heart would always belong to someone else. But with you, it feels right. It feels real." Michael kissed the top of her head, his voice gentle. "Madison, love is never simple, but it is always worth pursuing when it is true. I promise to honor what we have, to nurture it, and to never take it for granted." Their conversations during the trip often wandered into personal hopes and shared dreams. Madison found herself speaking candidly about her past, about her fears, and about the lessons she had learned from her relationship with Ryan. Michael listened without judgment, absorbing every word with empathy and understanding. "Thank you, Michael," she said one evening as they watched the sunset together, "for giving me a chance to love again, for letting me see that happiness doesn't always come in the way I expect, but it can still be just as profound." Michael smiled, taking her hand. "Madison, it is you who has given me joy. You've allowed me to share my life with someone who values honesty, patience, and love as much as I do. That is a gift beyond measure." By the end of their trip, Madison realized that her heart had fully embraced the love she felt for Michael. It was a love built not on immediate passion or fleeting attraction, but on trust, respect, and the consistent demonstration of care. Returning to New York, Madison felt a renewed sense of purpose and contentment. She looked forward to their life together, knowing that their bond had been tempered by trials, strengthened by shared experiences, and solidified by mutual devotion. Michael's unwavering love had given her the courage to let go of past attachments and embrace a future filled with hope and partnership. Back in the city, the couple resumed their daily routines, but with an intimacy and understanding that had grown exponentially during their time away. Even the smallest gestures, Michael bringing her coffee in the morning, Madison leaving notes of affection on his desk, shared glances across a crowded room, strengthened their bond. Their relationship was no longer defined by obligation or circumstance, but by choice, affection, and the deliberate nurturing of a love that had been patient, tested, and ultimately realized. One evening, as they sat together in the quiet of their living room, Michael turned to Madison, his voice filled with warmth. "Do you see now, Madison? The love we have isn't just about romance. It's about standing by each other, facing the world together, and trusting that no matter what comes, we will have each other." Madison smiled, her heart full. "I do, Michael. I see it. And I promise I will never take what we have for granted. You've taught me what it truly means to be loved, and I love you completely." Michael pulled her into a tender embrace, the culmination of weeks of patient understanding, quiet support, and shared experiences. And Madison rested her head against his chest, feeling a sense of safety, belonging, and deep, abiding love. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, yet the intimacy and connection they had cultivated only deepened. Quiet dinners, late-night walks, and romantic trips became a cherished rhythm, a testament to the resilience of their hearts and the strength of their bond. Madison realized that love was not a fleeting emotion, but a continuous choice, a choice to trust, to nurture, and to embrace the imperfections of life and of each other. With Michael, she had found a love that was enduring, patient, and unwavering, a love that had been worth waiting for and fighting for in its own quiet, profound way.
3 years had passed since Madison and Michael had solidified their love, and the Reynolds estate in New York buzzed with quiet celebration. Madison stood by the terrace window, looking out at the city lights that twinkled like distant stars, reflecting on the journey she had traveled, from heartbreak and manipulation to trust and unconditional love. Today marked their 3rd wedding anniversary, a milestone that felt both poignant and empowering. Michael entered the room, a bouquet of her favorite lilies in hand, his eyes alight with warmth and tenderness. "Happy anniversary, Madison," he said softly, handing her the flowers. 3 years. It's hard to believe how much has changed, yet how constant our love has remained. Madison smiled, taking the lilies and inhaling their sweet fragrance. "It feels surreal, Michael. The past sometimes feels like a different life entirely, yet here we are, stronger, together, and happier than I ever imagined." She stepped into his embrace, feeling the familiar sense of security and devotion that had come to define their relationship. Michael held her close, the simplicity of the moment grounding both of them in a joy that was entirely their own. The following morning, Madison was reviewing some charitable projects she managed when Michael entered the room, a look of mild surprise on his face. "Madison, I think we have an unexpected visitor," he said, gesturing toward the door. Madison turned to see a tall, confident man standing in the foyer, accompanied by a poised, elegant woman. Madison's heart skipped a beat. Ryan Hayes. Gone was the struggling young man of her past, replaced by a successful entrepreneur exuding charm and confidence. Beside him stood Chloe Simmons, Ryan's longtime business partner, her demeanor calm but attentive, clearly there to support him in every way. "Ryan," Madison said cautiously, her voice a mixture of surprise and guarded restraint, "it's been a long time." Ryan's gaze softened as he took a careful step forward, his eyes meeting hers with a familiarity that stirred memories of a love that had once defined her youth. "Madison," he replied, his voice steady yet filled with emotion. "Too long. I hope you don't mind my unexpected visit. I wanted to see you, to reconnect, if only for a moment." Michael, sensing the tension, stepped closer to Madison, his presence calm but protective. "And you are?" he asked politely, but with an unmistakable firmness. "This is Chloe, my business partner," Ryan said smoothly, gesturing toward her. "She's been instrumental in everything I've built since Chicago. I assure you, our intentions are professional, mostly." Madison's mind raced, torn between the shock of seeing Ryan and the instinctive caution she felt with Michael nearby. She composed herself, stepping forward with measured grace. "I see. Well, it's good to see you've done well, Ryan, truly." Ryan's smile held a trace of wistfulness. "I've thought about you often, Madison. Some things don't fade, no matter how much time passes."
Over the next few days, Ryan made no secret of his desire to reconnect with Madison. He attended social gatherings where Madison and Michael were present, often finding ways to initiate conversations with her while Chloe provided support, ensuring he maintained composure and charm. Madison remained polite but distant, determined not to betray the life she had built with Michael. Yet, seeing Ryan's success and the confidence he now carried stirred emotions she thought she had long buried. Michael observed this silently, his trust in Madison evident, though a flicker of concern crossed his face when Ryan's presence became more frequent. One evening, as they all attended a gala hosted by a prominent New York foundation, Ryan approached Madison during a quiet moment on the balcony. "Madison, I've watched from afar, and I can't help but feel unfinished business," he said, his voice low, meant only for her ears. "I know you're married, and I respect that, but my feelings, they haven't changed." Madison felt her chest tighten, a mixture of nostalgia and determination surging within her. "Ryan, I've moved forward. I love Michael. I made a choice and I stand by it. What we had is in the past. I will not betray him or myself." Chloe, standing just a few steps behind him, observed quietly, her expression unreadable. "Ryan," she said softly, her voice firm yet calm, "you've achieved so much. Don't risk losing your own happiness by chasing what is no longer meant to be. Focus on the future you've built." Ryan nodded slowly, torn between longing and logic, his gaze returning to Madison for one fleeting second before he forced himself to smile. "You're right, Chloe, but I had to try, at least to know I gave it my all." Meanwhile, Michael watched the exchange from inside the hall, stepping out to join them after a few minutes. "Ryan," he said calmly, but with an underlying authority, "I see you care for Madison, that is clear. But she is my wife, and we are committed to each other. I trust her as she trusts me. No attempt to sway her will succeed, nor should it." Ryan's eyes met Michael's, a mixture of respect and residual emotion flickering across his face. "I understand, Michael, truly. I couldn't ignore the opportunity to see her, to be honest with myself." Madison stepped closer to Michael, resting her hand gently on his arm. "Michael, you see, I am yours. I always have been. I will not let the past define me or our future." Michael smiled warmly, pressing a kiss to her temple. "And I will never doubt that, Madison. Love isn't measured by absence or temptation. It's measured by trust, commitment, and the courage to remain faithful. You have shown all of these, and I am proud of us." Madison's heart swelled, reassured by Michael's unwavering devotion, the same devotion that had sustained her through challenges, betrayal attempts, and the complexities of blending families and past attachments. Despite Ryan's charm and persistence, it became increasingly evident that Madison's heart belonged entirely to Michael. She treated Ryan with politeness and respect, but maintained firm boundaries, ensuring her loyalty remained unmistakable. Chloe, observing this, began subtly guiding Ryan toward acceptance, encouraging him to focus on his burgeoning business empire and the possibilities of a future beyond the shadow of Madison's love. Ryan, though initially resistant, slowly recognized that Madison's happiness was inseparable from her life with Michael. Over the next few weeks, Madison and Michael continued to strengthen their bond, celebrating milestones and cherishing quiet moments together, while Ryan and Chloe navigated the delicate balance of professional and personal aspirations. Ryan's pursuit had tested Madison's resolve and faith in her marriage, but it ultimately reinforced her love and commitment to Michael. The past had returned, briefly stirring emotions, but it had also reaffirmed the choices she had made and the life she had built. By the end of Ryan's visit, the boundaries had been clearly established, and while the memory of past love lingered, it no longer held power over Madison. Michael's patient, unwavering support had provided the security and affirmation she needed to navigate the challenge gracefully. Ryan, guided by Chloe's counsel, began to fully focus on his own path, accepting that Madison's heart was no longer his to claim. The Reynolds household, now free of lingering shadows from the past, settled back into its rhythm, strengthened by the trials of loyalty, trust, and the enduring power of love that had withstood the return of an old flame.
The Reynolds estate was quieter than usual that evening, the city lights casting a soft glow across the living room where Madison sat, reflecting on the past weeks. Ryan's sudden return had shaken her more than she had anticipated, stirring memories she thought she had long buried. Yet, as she looked beside her at Michael, who was patiently reading a report with the calm and unwavering presence she had come to rely on, her heart reaffirmed the choice she had already made. The love she felt for him was steady, enduring, and unwavering, far removed from the impulsive passion of her past with Ryan. Michael glanced up, noticing the contemplative expression on Madison's face. "You've been quiet," he observed softly, his voice gentle. "Are you all right?" Madison met his eyes, the depth of her feelings reflected in her gaze. "I've been thinking about everything that happened with Ryan," she admitted. "Seeing him again, knowing he still cares, it's hard. But I can't let the past dictate my present, Michael. My heart, my life, it belongs here with you." Michael reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers. "Madison, you've already proven your loyalty. Choosing love means choosing each other every day, in small and large ways, and you've done that." Meanwhile, Ryan sat in his sleek Manhattan office, his mind consumed with frustration and disbelief. Despite Chloe's patient attempts to console him, he could not shake the sting of rejection. "I don't understand," he muttered, pacing the room. "She was mine once. I gave her everything, and now she's choosing him over me. After all I've done, all I've become, this isn't fair." Chloe watched him carefully, her expression calm but firm. "Ryan," she said, her voice steady, "Madison made her choice. She loves Michael, and no matter what you do, that won't change. You need to focus on yourself, not punish others for your pain." Ryan's jaw tightened, his mind already spiraling into schemes. "Punish them," he said bitterly. "No, Chloe, I need to make them pay for taking what should have been mine. If I can't have her, then no one will have the peace and happiness they think they've earned." Chloe frowned, her concern deepening. "Ryan," she said, her voice steady, "Madison made her choice. She loves Michael, and no matter what you do, that won't change. You need to focus on yourself, not punish others for your pain." Ryan's jaw tightened, his mind already spiraling into schemes. punish them?" he said bitterly. "No, Chloe. I need to make them pay for taking what should have been mine. If I can't have her, then no one will have the peace and happiness they think they've earned." Chloe frowned, her concern deepening. "Ryan, listen to me. Acting out of spite won't heal your heart. Revenge will only destroy you, and in the process, you'll lose everything else you've worked for. Madison's choice doesn't diminish your worth. Let go." But Ryan was already far down a darker path, his grief and anger clouding his judgment. Back at the Reynolds estate, Madison and Michael continued to rebuild the serenity of their life together. They spent quiet evenings discussing their future, planning travels, and enjoying the comfort of each other's company. Yet, Madison could not fully escape the memories of Ryan, the intensity of his past love, and the visible pain she had seen in his eyes. One evening, as she sat on the terrace with Michael, she sighed, resting her head on his shoulder. "I wish things could have been different," she murmured softly. "I hate that he's hurting, even if I know it's not my fault." Michael stroked her hair gently, his voice reassuring. "Madison, pain is a part of life. We cannot control how others feel, only how we act. You chose love, loyalty, and integrity. That is more than anyone could ask of you."
Ryan, however, was already moving forward with calculated determination. The rejection had ignited a fire within him, one that fueled his desire to disrupt the happiness he could not claim. He began reaching out to old allies, seeking those who had harbored resentment toward the Reynolds family, and carefully identifying weaknesses in Michael's personal and professional life. "Chloe," he said one evening, his tone sharp with resolve, "I've realized the only way to make sense of this is to regain control. If I can't have Madison, then I need to make sure Michael feels the consequences of standing in my way." Chloe's expression tightened. "Ryan, revenge won't heal your heart. It will only leave you empty and isolated." He shook his head, his gaze distant and calculating. "I can't just sit back. I can't. This is the only way forward." Despite the storm brewing in Ryan's mind, Madison remained steadfast. Her mornings were filled with the joy of shared breakfasts, soft laughter, and whispered conversations with Michael. The couple took pleasure in small, intimate routines, reading together by the fire, taking long walks through Central Park, and savoring the security that came from true trust. Madison noticed that each day spent with Michael strengthened her conviction. She was building a life grounded not in fleeting emotions, but in loyalty, respect, and the unwavering support of a man who truly cherished her. Yet the shadow of Ryan's presence lingered, if only as a reminder of the choices that had led her here. One evening, Madison confided in Michael, her voice tinged with concern. "He seems different now, more determined, more dangerous. I worry about what he might do if he can't accept that I'm yours." Michael took her hands in his, looking into her eyes with a mixture of tenderness and resolve. "Whatever he plans, Madison, I will protect you. We've faced challenges before, and we've come through stronger. Trust in us. Trust in the love we share. That is our greatest shield." Madison nodded, feeling a surge of gratitude and reassurance. Michael's words reminded her that the strength of their bond was far greater than the threats of the past or present. Ryan's first overt moves of revenge were subtle yet strategic. He began purchasing Michael's business debts and quietly infiltrating the circles of influence surrounding the family. Brandon, still bitter from his own failures within the household, became an unwitting ally, feeding Ryan information about potential vulnerabilities. Even Veronica and Nicole, who had their own grievances, were drawn into Ryan's growing network of schemes. Ryan's once unpolished persona had been replaced with calculated cunning, driven by a need to assert control over a world that had denied him the love he craved. Madison, meanwhile, tried to maintain normalcy, cherishing the life she had carefully built with Michael. She shared tender evenings with him. Their conversations often drifted into dreams of children, travel, and the quiet joys of married life.
Michael's patience and support became her anchor, allowing her to weather the anxiety caused by Ryan's return without succumbing to fear. "No matter what he does, we will face it together," Michael reminded her one night as they walked through the garden. "Our loyalty to each other is stronger than any scheme, stronger than any shadow from the past." Madison squeezed his hand, her heart swelling with love and confidence. Yet the tension was far from over. Ryan's determination to disrupt their lives loomed in the background, a reminder that loyalty often comes at the price of vigilance. Madison's heart ached at the thought of the pain Ryan carried, but she refused to compromise the love she shared with Michael. Each confrontation, each reminder of the past, strengthened her resolve and deepened her understanding of the true meaning of loyalty, not only to one's partner, but to one's values and convictions. By the end of the chapter, the stage was set for a confrontation between Ryan's desire for revenge and the unshakable love that bound Madison and Michael together. While Ryan plotted and maneuvered, Madison's commitment and Michael's unwavering trust formed a formidable defense, one that promised resilience, courage, and the ultimate triumph of loyalty and love over bitterness and heartache. The coming weeks would test them, but the foundation they had built through honesty, respect, and shared devotion would prove unyielding.
The quiet streets of New York masked a storm brewing within the corridors of power and wealth. Ryan Hayes had returned to the city with a singular purpose. His previous heartbreak now transformed into a cold, calculating drive for vengeance. Over the weeks, he meticulously gathered information about Michael Reynolds' financial and personal affairs. Veronica, Nicole, and Brandon, each nursing their own grievances against the Reynolds family, became his willing allies. They had found in Ryan a charismatic leader who could orchestrate the disruption they had long dreamed of. And together, they began weaving a web designed to topple Michael and shake Madison's life to its foundation. Ryan convened a secret meeting in his sleek Manhattan office, Chloe standing off to the side, aware but unable to influence the decisions he was determined to make. "Veronica, Brandon, Nicole," Ryan began, his voice low and precise. "Michael Reynolds has lived in comfort and privilege while ignoring opportunities to appreciate the loyalty of those around him. It's time we correct the imbalance. Every vulnerability has been noted, every debt, every weakness exposed. We act decisively, and we act now." Veronica leaned back in her chair, a sly smile spreading across her face. "Finally, a chance to claim what's rightfully ours. I've been waiting for this, Ryan. Michael has always underestimated me, and now we'll show him." Brandon, eager and impatient, interjected, "I can make sure Michael's own company can't stand in his way. I know the ins and outs. If we push hard enough, he'll have no choice but to step aside." Ryan nodded approvingly. "Good. You will be our inside eyes. Nicole, your role is equally important. Ensure that every financial discrepancy, every minor error, every opening is exploited. Our goal isn't merely to challenge Michael, it's to completely destabilize his world." Nicole's lips curved into a determined grin. "Consider it done, Ryan. We've waited long enough. It's time the Reynolds family sees what happens when ambition meets opportunity." The first move in their intricate plan was strategic and devastating. Ryan quietly began purchasing the outstanding loans Michael had taken for a new business venture. Each acquisition was done subtly, under separate corporate entities and aliases, so that Michael remained unaware of the consolidation until it was too late. "It's almost poetic," Ryan murmured to Chloe one evening as he reviewed the documents. "The very debts Michael took to expand his company are now under my control. Every asset, every liability, it all belongs to the one who refused to acknowledge me when I needed it most." Chloe shook her head, her concern evident. "Ryan, you're crossing a line. Don't let your anger consume the good you've built. You're not the same man you were before." Ryan's eyes hardened. "I am the same man, Chloe, only smarter, stronger, and unwilling to be denied again."
The culmination of this financial maneuvering was the seizure of Michael's house at auction. The Grand Reynolds estate, a symbol of stability and prosperity, was now threatened under the weight of Ryan's schemes. Madison was the first to hear of it, the news delivered by their loyal house manager. Her heart sank, though she refused to allow panic to cloud her judgment. "Michael," she said firmly when he returned home, "we've faced challenges before, and we will face this too. This is not the end. We must stay calm and work together." Michael, though troubled, took her hands in his. "Madison, I know. Whatever happens, we will face it as a family. This house, this company, it's not what defines us. Our commitment to each other, our values, that is what endures."
Meanwhile, Brandon executed his role within the family company with ruthless efficiency. He began maneuvering internal alliances, spreading doubt about Michael's leadership, and quietly undermining his authority. Each meeting, each decision was subtly twisted to create friction and uncertainty, while he maintained a veneer of loyalty. Veronica and Nicole, working from the sidelines, fed information and reinforced the narrative that Michael was unfit to maintain control. It was a careful orchestration of chaos designed to destabilize Michael professionally and personally. Ryan, watching the progress unfold, felt a grim satisfaction. Yet even as he pursued his plans, a part of him lingered on the memories of Madison, the tenderness he had once shared, the love he had lost. It was a contradictory fire, grief and longing fueling his ambition, while anger and jealousy drove his actions. One evening, as he reviewed the auction results confirming the house seizure, he whispered to himself, "If I cannot have her, I will ensure that nothing she loves remains untouched. Every corner of her world must feel the consequences of her choice." Chloe's presence remained a silent reminder of reason. "Ryan, revenge is not love. Do not let what you cannot have dictate the life you still can build," she said quietly. He only shook his head, his mind locked on the unfolding plot. Back in New York, Madison and Michael faced the consequences of the growing storm with resilience. The house, once a sanctuary, was now under the threat of legal and financial takeover. Yet Madison refused to succumb to fear. She worked tirelessly alongside Michael and their loyal household staff, exploring legal avenues, negotiating with financial institutions, and maintaining the stability of their lives. Each step required courage, patience, and a careful balance of emotional fortitude. "Michael, we can handle this," she said one afternoon, poring over the documents. "Together, there is nothing they can do that will break us. They may control assets, but they cannot touch the bond we share." Michael smiled, gratitude evident in his eyes. "You're right, Madison. Love and loyalty are worth far more than any house or fortune, and they will see that in time." As Brandon continued his interference within the company, tensions reached a peak. Michael was summoned to confront a series of internal disputes, each orchestrated to portray him as unfit for leadership. "You're being set up," Madison warned him as he prepared for the meeting. "They're working together to discredit you." Michael nodded, his face stern but composed. "I know, but I will not let them succeed. I will stand firm, with integrity and with you by my side. That is what truly matters." Madison reached for his hand. "Then we face it together, Michael. They may have power and cunning, but we have truth and loyalty." Veronica, Brandon, and Nicole believed their plan was progressing perfectly, unaware of the quiet resilience and strategic thinking of Michael and Madison. The couple worked in tandem, countering every move, reinforcing alliances with trustworthy colleagues, and maintaining the support of loyal staff who refused to be swayed by manipulation. Madison, in particular, demonstrated remarkable fortitude, balancing her concern for Michael's well-being with the knowledge that their love was the anchor that would keep them grounded amidst the chaos. By the end of the chapter, the web of revenge was fully cast.
Ryan's control over Michael's debts, the house auction, and Brandon's insidious maneuvering within the company created a tense atmosphere of uncertainty. Yet, Madison and Michael's unwavering commitment to one another, combined with their intelligence, resourcefulness, and moral strength, set the stage for a confrontation that would test not only their resilience, but the power of loyalty and love to overcome even the most calculated schemes. While the threat loomed, the couple's bond remained unbroken, a testament to the enduring strength of trust, patience, and shared purpose against the entanglements of ambition and vengeance.
The Grand Reynolds estate had fallen into a state of tension and uncertainty, but for Madison and Michael, the true refuge came not from opulent walls or luxury, but from the unwavering loyalty of their household staff. The Reynolds' longtime housekeeper, Mrs. Simmons, had always been a quiet but steadfast presence in their lives. She welcomed them into her small but comfortable quarters, ensuring that they had privacy, warmth, and a sense of home amid the storm that Ryan, Veronica, Nicole, and Brandon had unleashed. Madison, despite the loss of their mansion, felt a surprising calm as she unpacked a few personal belongings. "This may not be our house, Michael," she said softly, "but with these people supporting us, it feels like home." Michael smiled, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "Home isn't a place, Madison. It's the people who stand by you, and we have the best of them here." Life in the staff quarters was modest but comforting. Meals were shared at a small wooden table. Laughter echoed despite the outside chaos, and the rhythm of daily life brought a sense of normalcy. Mrs. Simmons and the other staff members, who had served the family loyally for decades, treated Madison and Michael with unwavering care, offering advice, encouragement, and even strategic ideas on how to navigate Ryan's attacks. "You both have endured more than most," Mrs. Simmons said one morning as she prepared breakfast. "But remember, every storm passes, and truth has a way of coming out. Keep your faith in each other." Madison nodded, feeling renewed strength. "We will, Mrs. Simmons. Your support means more than you'll ever know." Meanwhile, Chloe Simmons, Ryan's business partner, had been conducting her own quiet investigation into the chaotic web of schemes surrounding the Reynolds family. Though she had initially supported Ryan's ambitions, her sense of integrity and morality could not ignore the blatant embezzlement orchestrated by Veronica, Brandon, and Nicole. As she sifted through records and financial statements, her eyes widened. "This is worse than I imagined," she murmured, speaking to herself in her office. "They've siphoned funds from the company for personal gain, and Ryan, he's being manipulated into aiding them without realizing the full extent." Determined to set things right, Chloe reached out to Michael and Madison, arranging a discreet meeting to reveal the truth. The meeting took place in the staff quarters, away from the eyes of the schemers. Chloe laid out the evidence in meticulous detail, tracing the flow of embezzled funds and exposing the conspiracies orchestrated by Veronica, Nicole, and Brandon. Madison's eyes widened in shock and disbelief. "They betrayed not only Michael," she said quietly, her voice trembling, "but the trust of everyone who worked for this family. I can't believe they went this far." Michael studied the documents calmly, his mind already racing with strategies to reclaim control. "This confirms what I suspected," he said, "but now that we have evidence, we can act decisively. Thank you, Chloe, for bringing this to light. We cannot allow greed and deceit to prevail." Chloe nodded solemnly. "I couldn't stand by and let them ruin everything you've built. It's time they face the consequences of their actions." Once the embezzlement was uncovered, tensions within the Reynolds household reached a breaking point. Veronica, Brandon, and Nicole were summoned to a confrontation, each defensive and attempting to deflect blame. "This isn't fair," Veronica exclaimed, her voice sharp. "You don't understand the sacrifices we've made, the obstacles we faced." Brandon interjected, his tone bitter. "Michael's been so blinded by his own authority, he didn't recognize our contributions. We had to take matters into our own hands." Nicole, visibly shaken, added, "It's not as simple as you think. We only wanted what was ours."
Madison, her voice steady but firm, addressed the siblings. You betrayed not just Michael, but yourselves. Greed and resentment can only lead to ruin. What you've done is unacceptable. But it's not too late to make amends. Michael, standing beside her, added with calm authority, We all make mistakes, but the truth always surfaces. Now that it has, the choice is yours. Accept responsibility and work to repair the damage, or continue down a path that will only isolate you further. The room fell silent, the weight of their actions settling on the three siblings. Veronica's face paled as she considered the evidence, Brandon's fists clenching, and Nicole's eyes filling with regret. It was Veronica who finally broke the silence, her voice quieter, tinged with uncertainty. Perhaps we went too far. We were blinded by jealousy and frustration, and in doing so, we lost sight of what truly matters. Maybe we need to reconsider our actions. Brandon's anger faltered, replaced by confusion and shame. Nicole nodded, the tears in her eyes betraying her guilt. You're right. We acted selfishly. We let resentment guide us instead of reason and compassion. We'll fix what we can, starting now. Madison felt a wave of relief, recognizing the first steps toward reconciliation. Acknowledgement is the beginning, she said softly. Redemption requires humility, courage, and effort. I hope you're ready to take that path. While the family worked to repair internal damage, an unexpected figure entered the scene, William Carter, Madison's father. Despite his previous rigidity, he had been closely monitoring the turmoil surrounding his daughter and Michael. Upon arriving in New York, he requested a private meeting with Ryan, intending to confront him directly. Ryan Hayes, William said, his tone stern and commanding. Your behavior over these years, and now your schemes, have been nothing short of disgraceful. You have allowed anger and obsession to cloud your judgment, and it has brought nothing but chaos and harm. Ryan, unflinching, met his gaze, though a flicker of guilt passed over his features. I only wanted what I believed was mine, William. Madison, she belongs to me. William cut him off sharply. No, Ryan, she belongs to herself and to the man she chose. You cannot manipulate, threaten, or destroy to claim what is not yours. Your actions have consequences, and you must recognize them. Ryan's shoulders slumped slightly, the weight of William's reprimand settling over him. I see that now. Perhaps I lost my way. William's expression softened marginally. It is not too late to change, Ryan, to move forward with dignity and honor rather than vengeance. Michael has proven himself worthy of Madison's love, loyalty, and respect. That is the measure of a man, not wealth or revenge. Ryan's eyes flickered toward the floor, the reality of his failures and the pain he had caused finally beginning to register. Back at the staff quarters, Madison and Michael felt the tide slowly turning. With Chloe's revelations, the siblings' reconsideration, and William's admonishment of Ryan, the web of deceit and manipulation began to unravel. The couple found solace in the knowledge that truth had emerged and that loyalty, integrity, and love were stronger than any scheme designed to dismantle their lives. Madison rested her head against Michael's shoulder, a sense of calm washing over her. We've survived so much, Michael, she whispered. And now, finally, we can begin to rebuild. Michael kissed her forehead, his eyes shining with pride and reassurance. Yes, Madison, we faced betrayal, greed, and even threats from the past. But love, honesty, and the strength of those who stand with us have prevailed. This is only the beginning of a brighter future. By the end of the chapter, Madison and Michael had found sanctuary amidst loyal allies. Chloe had exposed the full scope of embezzlement. Veronica and her siblings had begun to confront their misdeeds, and William had delivered a moral reckoning to Ryan. The stage was set for healing, reconciliation, and a final reckoning that would allow Madison and Michael to fully embrace the life and love they had fought so hard to protect.
The morning sunlight spilled softly through the curtains, casting a warm glow across the modest quarters where Madison and Michael had been temporarily living. Madison stirred from sleep, a gentle unease in her stomach prompting her to rise. She moved quietly to the bathroom, taking a deep breath as a wave of anticipation and apprehension washed over her. Moments later, she returned holding the small stick that would alter the course of their lives. The two lines stared back at her, unmistakable and clear. Tears welled in her eyes, but this time they were not of sorrow, they were of hope. "Michael," she whispered, her voice trembling with joy, "we're going to have a baby." Michael, who had been preparing breakfast in the adjoining kitchen, looked up, his eyes widening with surprise before they softened into a profound smile. He crossed the room in a few strides, taking Madison into his arms, careful and tender, as if holding her would protect both her and the child within. "Madison," he breathed, his voice thick with emotion, "this is the greatest gift I could have ever imagined. We've faced storms together, and now life is giving us something beautiful to nurture and cherish." Madison rested her head on his chest, her heart swelling with love. "I was so afraid of losing everything, Michael, but now I feel like we've finally found our future, something permanent and unshakable." Yet the joy of this discovery did not erase the shadow cast by Ryan's recent schemes. Madison knew that despite the reconciliation between Veronica, Nicole, and Brandon, and William's admonishment, Ryan's heart was still bruised by the past. Determined to protect her unborn child and her marriage, she resolved to confront him directly, to set boundaries once and for all. Later that day, she arranged to meet Ryan in a quiet cafe, away from the prying eyes of the city. As he approached, his confident stride faltered slightly at the sight of her calm determination. "Madison," he began, his voice tinged with longing. She held up a hand, stopping him mid-sentence. "Ryan, please hear me out," she said firmly. "I know you care for me, but what I am about to say is final. I am married to Michael, and we are expecting a child. I am asking you, no, I am telling you to leave me alone. Do not try to interfere in our lives. Our love, our family, is not a game or a conquest. I beg you, respect that." Ryan's jaw tightened, a storm of conflicting emotions crossing his face. He opened his mouth to protest, to claim he had a right to be heard, but Madison's unwavering gaze silenced him. "This is not a choice, Ryan. This is reality. You need to move on, not for my sake, but for yours." Ryan sat back, swallowing hard, the words settling heavily upon him. He had loved Madison passionately, and losing her to Michael had ignited a fire of anger and despair. Yet, seeing her calm, resolute demeanor and the unmistakable sign of new life within her, something shifted. I don't know if I can," he admitted, his voice low. "It hurts too much." Madison's tone softened but remained resolute. "I know it does, Ryan, and it always will in some way. But love cannot be measured in victory or defeat. You cannot define someone's worth or their heart by what you think you deserve. You must let go." Ryan's jaw tightened, a storm of conflicting emotions crossing his face. He opened his mouth to protest, to claim he had a right to be heard. But Madison's unwavering gaze silenced him. "This is not a choice, Ryan. This is reality. You need to move on, not for my sake, but for yours." Ryan sat back, swallowing hard, the words settling heavily upon him. He had loved Madison passionately, and losing her to Michael had ignited a fire of anger and despair. Yet, seeing her calm, resolute demeanor and the unmistakable sign of new life within her, something shifted. I don't know if I can," he admitted. "It hurts too much." Madison's tone softened but remained resolute. "I know it does, Ryan, and it always will in some way. But love cannot be measured in victory or defeat. You cannot define someone's worth or their heart by what you think you deserve. You must let go."
Meanwhile, Michael, learning of the confrontation, requested a private meeting with Ryan, wanting to address the lingering tension directly. They met in a neutral office space, the atmosphere heavy but civil. Michael extended a hand first. "Ryan, I know this is difficult," he began, his voice calm yet firm. "But I want you to understand something important. Love is not a competition. It cannot be measured by victory or defeat. Madison's heart chose me, and that choice does not diminish the love you have, nor the man you are becoming." Ryan looked at him skeptically, his eyes guarded. "And what if I still feel wronged? What if I feel like life cheated me?" Michael shook his head gently. "Ryan, life does not cheat. Life offers lessons, paths, and opportunities for growth. You loved Madison once, and that is part of your story, but it is not the entirety of it. Holding on to resentment, anger, or desire to control outcomes will only hurt you further. You must reconcile with your past, accept reality, and allow yourself to heal. That is how love truly thrives. It is selfless, not possessive." Ryan's shoulders slumped slightly, his hands gripping the edge of the desk. I want to understand, but it feels impossible." Michael smiled faintly, his gaze steady. "It will take time, Ryan, and it will require honesty with yourself. Madison and I are not your enemies. Let our happiness be an inspiration, not a battlefield. You have the choice to become a better man, not for her, but for yourself." The days following these conversations were filled with reflection for Ryan. He spent long hours walking the streets of Manhattan, replaying memories, acknowledging mistakes, and coming to terms with the consequences of his actions. Chloe, observing his transformation, remained a guiding presence, offering counsel and support without judgment. "Ryan," she said one afternoon, "accepting reality does not mean giving up. It means choosing a life that is worth living, one where you are at peace with your past, rather than enslaved by it." He nodded slowly, the weight of the past beginning to lift. I want to try, Chloe. I need to let go. And perhaps find a new purpose, one that doesn't revolve around what I cannot have." At home, Madison and Michael embraced the quiet, joyful moments of anticipation. Madison shared her hopes and fears about becoming a mother, while Michael, ever patient and loving, reassured her at every turn. "Our child will know love, security, and integrity," Michael said one evening as they sat together, the city lights twinkling beyond the windows. "That is more important than any house, any business, or any past conflict. We will teach them what truly matters." Madison rested her hand on her growing belly, smiling. "I can't wait to meet our baby, Michael. And I'm grateful for every struggle that led us to this point. We are stronger together." Ryan, too, was taking tentative steps toward reconciliation with his own past. He began engaging with Chloe in ways that focused on mutual respect, support, and shared ambition, redirecting the intensity of his emotions into constructive avenues. The fire of revenge and obsession that once consumed him was gradually replaced by reflection, humility, and the recognition that some loves, no matter how deep, are meant to remain in memory, while others become the foundation for growth and happiness. The chapter closed on a scene of quiet resolution and hope. Madison rested peacefully beside Michael, their fingers entwined, hearts synchronized, and minds aligned in shared purpose. Outside, Ryan walked the streets with Chloe, acknowledging the lessons of the past and the necessity of letting go. The stage was now set for a life defined not by bitterness or conflict, but by love, forgiveness, and new beginnings. Madison's pregnancy symbolized the dawn of a new chapter, one where loyalty, patience, and understanding had triumphed over deceit, obsession, and past heartbreak. The dawn of this new beginning marked a turning point for all involved. Madison and Michael looked forward to parenthood. Ryan began a journey of acceptance and renewal, and the bonds of family, loyalty, and love were reaffirmed. It was a chapter defined not by victory or defeat, but by the courage to embrace life with an open heart, the wisdom to learn from the past, and the commitment to forge a future built on respect, trust, and unconditional love.
The crisp autumn air in New York carried a sense of quiet transformation. Madison and Michael had returned to a sense of normalcy after the storms that had threatened to upend their lives. The Reynolds estate, though scarred by recent turmoil, now felt alive with purpose, love, and laughter. Madison, her hand resting protectively on her growing belly, walked alongside Michael in the garden, the golden leaves crunching softly beneath their feet. "I can't believe how far we've come," Madison murmured, a soft smile illuminating her face. "From uncertainty and fear to this." Michael gently squeezed her hand. "We've endured, Madison. Every trial, every challenge has only strengthened us. And soon, we'll welcome a new life into this world, a symbol of everything we've fought for." The news of Ryan's decision to move forward with his life reached them gradually. He had spent weeks reflecting, working with Chloe, and slowly reconciling with the past. One morning, Madison received a message from Chloe. "Ryan and I will be leaving for London next week. I wanted you to know, so you can rest assured that he will no longer be pursuing you." Relief washed over Madison in a wave of emotion. She shared the news with Michael, who pulled her into an embrace. "Finally," he whispered, "he's letting go. And now we can truly breathe, knowing that our family is safe and our future is ours to shape." Madison rested her head against his chest, tears of relief mingling with joy. "It feels like a burden lifted, years of fear and uncertainty finally behind us." In London, Ryan and Chloe prepared for a new chapter of their lives together. The city, bustling and alive, seemed to echo the promise of renewal. Ryan, standing on the balcony of their temporary apartment, gazed at the skyline, Chloe beside him. "I never thought I'd reach a point where I could let go of the past," he admitted, his voice quiet but steady. Chloe placed her hand over his, offering warmth and reassurance. "It wasn't easy, Ryan, but you've grown. You've learned that love isn't about possession or victory. It's about respect, understanding, and knowing when to step aside." Ryan nodded, his eyes reflecting a mixture of gratitude and newfound clarity. "I see that now. Madison and Michael, they were right. Life isn't about fighting to claim what's not meant for you. It's about cherishing what's possible and nurturing it with care." Chloe smiled softly. "And now we have that chance. Let's build something new together. No shadows, no regrets, just the future we choose to create." Ryan took a deep breath, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. Yes, together. That night, as they walked along the Thames, hand in hand, Ryan felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in years. The pain of the past remained, but it no longer dictated his present or future. In Chloe, he found not just companionship, but a partner who respected him, challenged him, and inspired him to become a better version of himself. Back in New York, Madison and Michael focused on nurturing their own life and love. Each day brought quiet moments of joy and anticipation for the arrival of their child. Madison spent hours in the nursery, choosing colors and arranging furniture, while Michael prepared financial plans and household improvements with renewed energy. "I want everything to be perfect for our baby," Madison said one afternoon, adjusting a small crib blanket. Michael smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "It doesn't have to be perfect, Madison. What matters is love, stability, and the warmth we provide. That's all a child truly needs, and we have that in abundance." Madison laughed softly, a sound full of contentment. "You always make it seem so simple, Michael." Despite the chaos of the past, the couple's bond had deepened into an unshakable foundation. They shared quiet dinners, walks through Central Park, and evenings spent planning for the future. Each moment, though ordinary in appearance, was infused with meaning. "Michael," Madison said one evening as they watched the sunset from their apartment balcony, "I never realized love could feel this complete. After everything, after all the trials, this peace, this happiness, it's worth more than I ever imagined." Michael wrapped his arms around her. "And it's ours to keep, Madison. Nothing can take it away now. We've earned this life, together." Word eventually reached them that Ryan and Chloe had settled into their new life in London. Michael received a brief but warm message from Ryan, expressing gratitude and closure. "Thank you for showing me that love is not a battle. I wish you and Madison every happiness. Chloe and I will begin our journey here, free from the shadows of the past." Michael shared the message with Madison, who read it aloud with a soft, reflective smile. "He's finally at peace," she said, "and so are we. It feels right." Michael kissed her forehead. "It's closure, Madison. The past has taught us lessons, and now we can move forward without fear or regret. Our family, our love, it's intact, and that's all that matters." As months passed, the anticipation of their child's arrival brought even greater joy. Friends and family members who had supported them during the trials visited, offering gifts, congratulations, and heartfelt encouragement. William Carter, Madison's father, made a special visit, his presence a reminder of the family bonds that had shaped her upbringing. He embraced both Madison and Michael warmly. "You've both shown strength, resilience, and love beyond measure," he said. "I am proud of the life you've built and the courage you've shown. Your child will grow up surrounded by loyalty, integrity, and love, values that will guide them always." Madison's eyes glistened with gratitude. "Thank you, Father. Your support means everything." The day their child was born brought a crescendo of emotion, joy, and fulfillment. Madison held their newborn close, tears streaming down her cheeks as Michael gazed at them with awe and devotion. "We did it, Madison," he whispered, his voice choked with emotion. "Our family, our love, it's real, and it's ours." Madison smiled, placing a hand on his cheek. "We did it together, Michael. Through every storm, every heartbreak, and every challenge, we stayed united. And now we begin the most beautiful chapter of all." In London, Ryan and Chloe were also beginning a life full of promise. Though their journey had started from pain and disappointment, they were learning to build a partnership based on respect, trust, and shared ambition. Ryan, looking at Chloe as she sketched plans for their business ventures, realized that letting go of the past had opened doors to happiness he never imagined possible. "I think I finally understand," he said softly. "Love is not about winning or losing. It's about choosing to support, to grow, and to honor the people who matter. And now, it's our turn." Chloe smiled, taking his hand. "Yes, Ryan, it's our turn to create something real, something lasting." Back in New York, Madison and Michael embraced their life fully, moving forward without fear of past shadows or threats. Their love, once tested by betrayal, obsession, and manipulation, had emerged stronger and more resilient. With their child as a new center of life and hope, they cultivated a home of warmth, joy, and unwavering trust. Their journey had been long and fraught, but in the end, love had triumphed. Not as a battle, but as a choice, a commitment, and a sanctuary. The chapter closed with a sense of harmony and completion. Ryan and Chloe departed for London, forging their own path together, while Madison and Michael embraced their life, love, and family in New York City. The past, with all its pain and trials, had shaped them, but it no longer defined them. Instead, it became a foundation for growth, understanding, and the purest form of happiness, a life shared with someone devoted to you and the promise of new beginnings for the generations to come.